In today's video, I'm going to be trying to find a dupe for the shade Astral Luna Gold from the Mothership 5, the Bronze Seduction palette. It is the special baked formula from McGrath, and this one is kind of like a duochrome, almost going into a multichrome. It's an iridescent, and it tends to look kind of white in some lighting straight on, except it's a very piecey, very sparkly type of shadow, definitely a topper. Like, it does not have a base. It's very bright gold. So here it is, what it looks like swatched. Very, very sparkly. It almost has a little bit of a grayish cast to it on an angle. You can see it is very, very shiny, very sparkly. Angle, it shifts all the way to almost like a lime green. The first shade I'm going to compare it to is Gilding, and this is a glitter iridescent multichrome from Clionadh Cosmetics. I would say this one has a slightly larger particle size, but it's definitely a very similar in the fact that it's sparkly. This one does pick up a little bit more opaque. And here it is swatched. It definitely has a little bit more of a prominent type of base to it. And the shift is actually pretty different. It does flash straight, just a little bit more orange rather than gold. It's pretty close, but definitely has its differences. The next shade is Light Year. This is from Terra, and this one has a much finer particle size. And it does pick up a little bit more opaque than the Luna shade. And this one almost has like a purple base to it. And the gold flash on is almost just a little bit more on the green side, straight on. And it shifts to more of an aqua versus green. The next shade is Glitz, and this is from ShineBySD, and this is from their Treasure Pop-Up palette. It's very, very piecey. I would say this one is the most similar in texture. I mean, especially the way it picks up on a finger, you can really see that it's super, super similar. I do think the gold reflex straight on is maybe just a hair more green than in the Astral Luna Gold shade. Next shade is Proteus. This is from Devinah Cosmetics, and this one I believe is no longer available. It was from their iridescent multichrome collection, and this one has by far the largest particle size, closer into the Clionadh particle size. It's a little bit on the flaky side, but it's very, very gold straight on. I would say that shade is almost exactly the same as the Light Year shade from Terra, so it does have a bit of a difference in tone straight on as well as in the base compared to the McGrath shade. So it's got a pinky purpley base with more of a gold green leaning flash straight on. The next two shades are loose pigments from Carla Cosmetics. This first one is Shooting Star, and it's an opal loose multichrome, and I will be swatching it over their Carla Cosmetics Fix Potion, as it definitely does need a base. It's a very, very fine pigment, the finest out of all of the shades, and it has a little bit more of an opacity to it, probably because it is a loose pigment. The other shade from Carla Cosmetics is called Beauty Sleep, which is also a opal multichrome. This one is also a really finely milled smooth pigment. However, it has way more sparkle in it, so it's got a little bit larger particle size compared to Shooting Star for sure. And I am swatching it pretty opaque over the primer. Texture-wise, Beauty Sleep is closer in to the McGrath shade. However, color-wise, it's really not. I would say that Shooting Star is a bit more closer in to the McGrath shade. However, obviously, it is a totally different type of eyeshadow, being loose and the pigment being really finely milled. And even then, it is still a bit different. Beauty Sleep does have that similar base to it as some of the other shades, like the Clionadh shade, and of course the shifts are a bit different too. Shooting Star doesn't really have too much of a shift. If anything, it just looks like it shifts to like a more of a true yellow gold. Here is Astral Luna Gold from McGrath, and here is Glitz from ShineBySD. I do think these are the most similar to each other, so I'm going to swatch them side by side. And here's a little bit of a close-up. There is some slight tonal variation in them for sure, but texture-wise and finish-wise, they're super, super similar. I do think that on the lid, they will look pretty similar to each other. For the mattes, I use this shade and this shade. And I did bring the dark brown a little bit inwards so that we could see how the shade also looks a little bit layered over a darker matte. I'm going to be putting down just a little bit of glitter primer. This one is from Moira Cosmetics. I'm just kind of tapping it on, making sure I didn't put on too much, and also making sure that it is in fact tacky. So first I'm picking up the McGrath shade I'm just gonna tap it over. Definitely helping to apply it. Ooh, that looks so nice. This is probably the most opaque it's going to look because it has something to stick down to, and then you can see how it looks over the brown a little bit. And then same thing on this eye. And I'm using Glitz. If you really break down the price of that pop-up palette, I think this would make it about like $6 per shadow, which is amazing for a shade that looks just like Pat McGrath. I feel like I see an ever so slight difference between the two shades. Let me just add a little bit more of this one on the lid and a little bit onto the outer corner as well. So I do see a little bit of a tone difference as well as a shine difference. This shade just looks like a slightly different, like almost a smoother shine and sparkle, while this one has just a little bit of, just the tiniest bit less of that shine. It's still very sparkly, but I just feel like they do look a little bit different. And then color-wise, I definitely think this one is more of a true gold, while this one is leaning a little bit more green, at least for me. I'm not sure if it's translating on camera. And it also looks like it's lighter than the Pat McGrath shade. Let me know in the comments below if you found a dupe to Astral Luna shade from the Pat McGrath eyeshadow palette. And I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.